answers that. Well, hey, it's great to meet you. I want to begin our conversation with living through the last 3.5 years or so. How did you survive the pandemic and how has it changed you?
Interesting. So, just as background, I have 5 companies, 3 of which I founded myself. My day job is I run a PR and marketing firm. My night job for many years was an events company. Obviously, that took the biggest hit.
Yeah.
And then the dream job is Innovation Women. It is a speaker bureau for entrepreneurial, technical, and professional women. That's 3.
Yeah.
And during the early days of the pandemic, I bought 2 additional companies. So I bought a research service for professional speakers in April 2020, and I bought a digital magazine for women entrepreneurs in August 2020.
Wow.
And both of those coming from founders who, I think looked at the pandemic landscape and said, I don't want to be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And I saw what they were doing and said, number one, those are companies that deserve to live on. And number two, those are things that fit in with my through line, which is all about visibility, providing business opportunity. So the pandemic actually, aside from the initial shock, was actually pretty darn good for our business. We also had a little bit of a heads up. My public relations firm was responsible for PR for passengers on the Diamond Princess in February. So that was wild. We
Yeah.
were kind of smack dab in the middle of the world's biggest and wildest global story.
Yeah.
And we drove around 3,000 stories in less than 10 days. And, also learned a whole lot about everything from on ship quarantine or lack thereof to how to kind of muster U.S. Resources to go and grab about 400 people and bring them home from Japan.
Wow. That's intense.
Wild experience.
Yeah. That's
I,
that
I've done some crisis PR in my day, but that one is up there.
that'll age you like a president, I'm sure.
Yeah. 10 days, pretty much round the clock, because of course our clients were just off the coast of Japan.
Yeah.
So time zones.
Yeah. Wow. So let me ask you this. Let's get to the actual essence of what you do, obviously, as an entrepreneur. If I put you in front of a bunch of third graders and one of the kids looks up, it's career day, and they're like, hey, what do you do for a living? How would you answer them?
It brings me back to when my kids were little, and I asked my older son, "What do you think mommy does all day?" And he's like, "Talk on the phone and take meetings." Like, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today we do a lot of writing. I write many, many things. We call it content creation in the business. I also do spend a lot of time connecting people. So the primary activity of Innovation Women, for example, is connecting event managers with awesome speakers who just happen to be women. And we also do a lot of social media marketing. So if third graders, let's see, they are not yet old enough to be on social media, but I imagine they see mom and dad spending a lot of times on their cell phones and the Facebook and X/Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And we help companies get visible on those platforms.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
I think it probably had something to do with horses. I was a
Yeah.
horse girl.
Okay.
But later on, I was definitely like intrigued by perhaps being a lawyer. And then I found out how many years I had to go to school.
Yeah. Are you originally from the Boston area?
I am not. I'm originally from upstate New York, kind of the wilds of upstate New York in the Adirondack Mountains area.
So how did you get these seeds of entrepreneurship and innovation and all of these things? How did this become who you are today?
Oh, in 2008, the startup that I was working with ran out of money. And we were not alone.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Great Recession impacted a lot of companies. And my husband was the stay-at-home parent, so it was all up to me to bring home food and put the mortgage money together and things like that. So I hung out a shingle at that point while I was still looking for a job. The
Yeah.
funny part is my dad was an entrepreneur. He ran his own businesses for years. It literally never occurred to me
Wow.
until I was kind of forced into the situation. And during those early days, social media was young. I was very early to jump onto things like Twitter. And I said, "Oh, this is good. I like this. I no longer have to deal with the gatekeeper that is the mass media.
Yeah.
I can be the media myself."
Yeah.
So that was very intriguing to me. And that's when I started Innovation Nights, which was my second company. And that was designed to help me get more experience with social media marketing, but also to demonstrate my social media skills to the broader entrepreneurial kind of universe in the Boston area.
So did you ever do any journalism or anything along those lines?
I did. I did write for the high school newspaper and was a stringer for my town newspaper. I worked in radio news in college. I have a broadcasting degree,
Okay.
hence the nice toys that I am playing with here. Uh,
Yes.
and a lot of people go, "Oh, you have radio voice," and I'm like, "Well, I should.
Yeah.
I went to school for this."
Yes. Yes.
I worked in radio news in central New York for a while. I worked WTRY, Pix 106, Albany, Schenectady, Troy for a while. Also central New York stations too.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Who's been a hero for you in your life, an inspiration that's fueled your desire and drive?
Hmm. I think it's so many of the people that I work with. I see peers and near peers, people who are just ahead of me, and I say, "Oh, I can do that too." Um, right now, I have like 2,500 female speakers on the Innovation Women platform, and so many of them are motivational speakers or inspirational speakers that just meeting them and hanging out with them is inspiring on a daily basis.
So if you could meet, is it, do they take you, go back to the whole journalistic bone that you have in you. If you could interview anybody on the planet right now or spend some time with them, who would it be?
Oh God, so many choices. Definitely so many choices. I mean, I have to admit, I think people would probably, go for politicians and things like that. I want to talk to people like I want to talk to Brene Brown.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic speaker, somebody who has built a business on speaking, who I think never intended to be a speaker. And that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. So obviously with her and with others that you've mentioned, they have a high level of inspiration, a lot of get up and go. What is that that gets you out of bed every day? What is it that makes you who you are to help others, to provide platforms for women? How does this work for you?
Um, Innovation Women is a mission-driven company, and we talk about our mission being one of putting more women on stage at conferences and events because two-thirds of all conference speakers are men, and that leaves women out of so many business and career opportunities. And, it's like you're running a mission driven company, Bobby. Why? Well, I saw it not as a way to really get focused on public speaking. I saw it as a way to drive pay equity, gender equity in terms of who's seen as a leader, who is seen as an expert. It has to do with funding for women founded companies. I have been a woman founded company for a while and also worked for other women founded companies. And less than 3% of all venture capital goes to women founded companies. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Come on. We also look at things like the number of women on boards. We look at the number of women in the C-suite. So often, speakers are chosen for conferences and events simply because they're the CEO of that company. So I think kind of what drives me is sheer annoyance at the inequities that exist in the world. And I don't know, something gets my back up about it, and I just can't let it rest. So I have to do something. And that's, I think, kind of built into who I am. I get annoyed with these inequities and I have to take action.
So you've obviously done a lot. So I'm wondering, of all of the platforms that you've given women, what's been one of your favorite success stories?
I I feel like one of my favorite ones is probably a smaller one. I speak quite frequently at a conference called the Women in Tech Summit. It's one that I've spoken at a number of years. And one year when I walked through the door ready to do my presentation, the event organizer said, "Oh, you have to meet this other speaker." And I did. And she told me that she had heard me speak a previous year and had gotten excited about speaking. She had never done any presenting before, and she applied and was accepted to speak at the conference. And, it's her first time and she knocked it out of the park. I mean, she did so well. And I think that a lot of people think about public speaking as something they do later in life when they're a CEO. I have to be in the C suite. But this is a relatively young person who didn't really think of herself as a speaker, but she had a message and she had a purpose behind her speaking. And something I said got her to say yes to public speaking, to take action, and to do it herself. Those are the things I hear that a lot, but getting to meet somebody in person and to share the stage with them was really exciting for me.
So of all of the female revolutionaries that have existed in our timeline, who do you admire the most? Who's somebody that you kind of emulate or you look up to?
Emulate, I haven't got anything there.
Right.
Um, I d I don't see as many people doing the mission-driven companies like I am doing. I know they're out there, I just don't see them. They don't get the coverage in the press
Yeah.
that often a company that's getting a boatload of venture capital gets. So, there's a whole conversation. But I do think that, the people who are taking control of a situation, who are saying, I see a problem and I'm going to make a change. For example, I've been talking a lot with Allison Byers and Amy Sperling, who have their own companies,
Yeah.
but yet they have been very active in the fight for legislation around the inequities around funding female founded companies. So, both in California and in Massachusetts, there was legislation that was pending, and they were doing the lobbying work and rallying people to go and tell stories. So, I just love seeing that.
So obviously you covered quite a story from a PR perspective with the ship. But is there a story that exists out there that you would have loved to have been covering? Is there a historical story that you would have just loved to have been there to watch either the aftermath or the continuation and to actually cover it as a journalist?
I think the suffragettes,
Yeah,
like that's the obvious choice.
yeah,
You have people that society told you belong in a kitchen, you belong at home, and they were like, heck no, I'm going to go out and get the vote.
yeah.
So, they came from so many different walks of life, so many different social stratas. And I think that, it was never covered as completely as it needed to be.
Yeah.
So we saw a lot of women of color who were involved, but really just never got the visibility that the white women did.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So of all of the things that you've done, become and overcome and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
Innovation Women is obviously top of the list, but also Innovation Nights, the company that I started in 2009. We launched over 1,500 new products that got more than $4 billion in funding. We did it on a shoestring. We did monthly events. We did more than 130 events before the pandemic kind of put a stop to in person events. We were driving between 2 and 3 million views a month just by using our social media amplification program. So, like that, I look at the companies and all of the people who have jobs because those companies had successful launches. There were companies that connected with investors, there were companies that connected with employees and mentors and customers. We did these basically grassroots events, and it allowed us to really bring together a community. That's important. Like, community is so important. We currently have a community event every week for Innovation Women. It's called Speaker Friend Friday. And it's on Zoom and anybody can join. And Speaker Friend Friday is a place where people actually share information about their speaking careers and their speaking businesses. I don't know if you talk to other speakers. Pretty sure you do because I've
Yeah.
seen some of your interviews.
Yeah.
They are normally, God love them, a secretive group. They don't share their secrets and their tips normally unless you're taking one of their classes.
Yeah.
And to have a group of people who'd get together every week on Zoom and openly share tips to help each other grow their businesses is amazing.
Yeah. You know what astounds me about what you're doing is that typically in the popular vote, or even electoral college, women are the decider. Okay. How is it that all of these rights, these reproductive rights, have been totally repealed? And all of the progress that's been made for, I would say, 40, 50, 60 years was completely repealed in one moment. How did that happen? And do you think that those rights will be regained?
You know, you're talking about legislation that was impacted at a court level, and the people who are on that court were placed there by men.
Yeah,
So it has nothing to do with what we're voting for. If you look at the popular vote usually supports reproductive rights.
yeah,
And, you are looking at just another way, frankly, for men to control women's bodies. It's horrifying
yeah,
what we are going through.
yeah,
I have I have personal experience with a traumatic pregnancy, two of them. Unfortunately, I have two boys out of it. I lived, so did they. But, there comes a point in time in a pregnancy where sometimes moms are in danger and doctors need to make the right decision for that mom
yeah,
and that family. And they cannot be constrained by what somebody far away who will never go through that
right.
thinks.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why your work is so important to get the voices out there and to push it. So let me ask you this, as kind of the person that's the marionette pulling all the strings, everyone has a perception of you, family,
Puppeteer, puppeteer.
exactly. So everybody has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I mean, I am one person in a group. I always point to the rest of the team. I have a fantastic team. I end up being the figurehead because I was there first and it was my company and my idea, but it really is such a team effort. Everybody is so impassioned and excited about just the impact that we can have. Every woman that we get on stage, every woman that we enable to find her voice, we are doing this not, as a get rich scheme. I see so many predatory speaker training type programs, literally thousands of dollars. I have talked to women who have mortgaged homes, who have run up credit cards to pay coaches, to pay organizations 10, 20, $30,000. Innovation Women is a membership organization. It's $10 a month, $120 a year, and that is the budget that we use for all of our marketing to event managers and obviously to pay the team. I still haven't taken a salary out of Innovation Women. My day job is funding what I do.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of predatory stuff that happens, and it makes me and the team so angry and so frustrated at times.
Yeah, I bet. So let me ask you this. If anyone out there that's been listening wants to get involved and to get a membership or get involved with any of your business ventures, reach out to you. Where's the best place to go?
Innovationwomen.com.
Okay, excellent. This has been great. Thank you so much for taking time out to impart your story, and have a wonderful 2024.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.